Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Know Your Creator type. Let me adjust a couple things here. Haha. Welcome, welcome. There we go. So, this is Know Your Creator type, part two of The Chef. And if you haven't watched The Chef part one, it would be really good for you to go back and watch that to have context, more context for this one. This is the fifth of the creator types. So we've gone through four so far: the improviser, the alchemist, the activist, and the priestess. And now here we are at the chef. And I saved the chef to last for a very particular reason, because the chef creator energy is very much about bringing all the things together and making them taste good, making them beautiful and nourishing, not just to the body and to the soul, but also to the eyes, to the palate. And so I'm speaking um, figuratively, because we're talking about acts of creation, not necessarily that you're going to eat your acts of creation, but our acts of creation do have certain kinds of signatures of impacts. For example, remember just the last creator type we talked about, the priestess. The priestess creator type is very much about letting things fall out of form, letting them die. So there's this almost kind of wispy or ethereal or transcendent or divine quality to those creations. Whereas the chef is like, think about all things chef. You know, if you're sitting down to have a beautiful meal, whatever your favorite kind of meal is, something really, really healthy, and maybe more raw, more veggie based, or something fully gourmet French style with tons of butter and lots of rich flavor. The chef creator energy has the ability to create these kinds of qualities of nourishing impression. So when you are in creative mode, when you're creating something, some content, an offering, you're putting together a retreat, you're writing an email for that matter, that's a creation. If you're either good at bringing in the chef type or you want to be, the thing that you want to lean into is the nourishment piece. This is what you want to anchor into. Are these words, are these colors, is the way that this is put together a nourishing experience? And the way that you'll know before other people tell you is that it will be that way for you. When you feel nourished by your creations, that's because you have healthy chef creator type energy. And this is one thing, I don't actually think I've said this to you all yet, but I have said that we have all of the creator types in us. We all have all of the creator types. It's not just like you're one type, but we tend to be stronger in certain ones, one or two, and more challenged in others. This is the part I haven't told you yet. It's important to develop all five creator types. Why? There's a robustness. There is also a sense of like stable freedom, which sounds like an oxymoron. There's a sense of stable freedom when you've developed all five of your creator types, and you know that just like a painter can choose a certain color off of a palette, you know that you can choose a bit of the priestess when it's needed. You can choose a bit of the activist when it's needed. The chef is the creator type that brings it all together. And so if you haven't learned to develop, let me rephrase that. If the chef creator energy in you is either underdeveloped or you haven't chosen to develop it, yet, then your creations might feel um, a bit discombobulated, kind of not held together. You might, as a creator, feel that way. Like how I have experienced this. And this is the best way I can describe it is because I actually have no problem creating. I'm good at it. I create. One of my problems is like, I'm creating too many things. Do I need to rein it in? Do I need to prune? What needs to happen here? And for a while, when I hadn't, before I had consciously cultivated the chef creator energy, I would follow my creative impulse and I would create and create and create. But it didn't actually feel like there was something that sort of held it all together. And not that, of course, your individual creations are the individual creations, but there's a kind of energy that holds all of your creative expression and especially creative works that you're offering into the world together. The chef creator energy has that energy of like the soup pot, the crucible, the vessel. So you can feel this if you want. You can choose it and create it and intend it in an individual creation. Does this individual creation, an email, a video, a painting, does it transmit the sense of being held? Maybe you don't want it to be, but if you do, does it? That's the chef creator energy. Now you can tap into the chef creator energy by the fastest way, quite frankly, to tap into the chef creator energy is to land yourself in a nourished position within yourself. Take care of yourself, feed yourself, be in a place that feels comfortable and nice. Make sure you have what you need. If you're creating from a place of lack or of uncomfortability, now, with that said, of course, oftentimes when we're creating, especially if we know we're going to offer it up, there can be some fear. So I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about if you've got clutter all over your creative space and you don't actually feel at ease with that clutter, that's going to interfere with this this creator energy flowing through your creations. Okay. The reason why this is important is because the chef creator energy, not only does it hold everything, but it allows the creation to be nourishing unto itself. And there's many different ways that something can be nourishing. It doesn't always have to look like or feel like you're getting fed. There's different qualities to nourishment. So think about that in your own experience. Okay? Now, today, I want to do a little review of the five um, things, the five main points. We're going to talk about what the chef looks like when they're off, what they look like when they're on, and what they need to thrive. The five pillars, we could call them. The magic of the chef creator energy is gratitude. It's the fastest way to cultivate healthy chef creator energy. Gratitude. The superpower is nourishment. I think I just described that well enough. The theme is abundance, true abundance. There's enough, there's surplus, and there's nothing wasted because anything that's extra goes to compost and it feeds the next cycle. This is the energy of abundance. The kryptonite is complaining. I think I told you a funny story about that one last time with my husband, about my husband. The hack is service, being of service, doing service work. Good. How are you doing with all this so far? If you want to comment, feel free. And by the way, if you're liking the video so far, you can also like the video. That helps. I think it helps the videos get viewed. Okay, so when the chef creator type is off, I like talking about when the creator types get off because I think most of us can relate. And then we can tie that into what it looks like when we're on and basically how to handle it when we're off. So we have a power move that we can go to. So when the chef creator is off, They tend to either go too much or too little. So too much is like, I think the best way that I can describe this is, we have a friend, a lovely friend who likes to cook, and when he comes over to cook, he likes to cook with basically just opening up the fridge and taking everything that's in there. I actually like to do that too. But there's a consistent thing that he does where he's like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna make a stir fry," and he starts putting things in there that sound good in a stir fry, and then he just keeps going, like, takes a canned good, maybe like canned beans or things that don't actually sound so good in a stir fry, and he just keeps adding more stuff till it turns into something that it doesn't actually taste that good because there's too much going on. So if in it's an art form really to create without having too much or too little. It's an art form, and I don't really think that this is black and white or that someone can tell you necessarily at what point is too much and too little. I think it's something that you have to learn to navigate and feel for yourself. The chef people that have a lot of chef creator energy tend to want to keep adding things, or they're holding back in in some kind of scarcity, the opposite of abundance. For me, I know personally how mine will show up is like in my art of doing healing treatments. For many years, I would feel like I just needed to keep adding one more thing and one more oil and one more thing, and then I would feel this compression with time, like, how can I fit all this into the time? I have more. I need to add more. And me wanting to add more like that was actually coming from a place of lack that I fundamentally, and I wasn't consciously aware of this for a long time, but fundamentally, I didn't feel like it was enough. Whatever I was doing was enough. These are some of the dynamics with the chef creator type. And why? Because the chef creator type relates to earth element in Chinese medicine. And these are the imbalances of earth element. So either too much, too little, greedy or stingy, needy or overly self reliant. So just think about it as feeling it in your being as you're acting in the world, but also how that shows up in your creations. How does being needy or overly self reliant show up in your emails that you send out, in your communications with your community? How does it show up in your treatments if you give treatments? How does it show up in your artwork if you do artwork? The other thing when earth and chef creator energy is off is it can either be scattered, kind of like dry earth that doesn't have something to hold it together. You step down on it and the dust sort of bellows in all these directions. So scattered, or the opposite, heavy, dense, foggy, damp. The earth type person tends to have more challenges with what we call codependency, colluding, boundaries, and martyrdom. Any of the creator types, by the way, can have these behaviors. But I wanted to name them here because they come up really strong with earth element imbalances, and they show up in our creative life. If you're codependent and colluding, your freedom to express what you really want to express is probably going to be highly censored. If you have boundary issues and you're being of service and creating, you're probably going to wear yourself out and end up bitter or resentful that you've overextended yourself in this way. So these very closely tie in to the chef creator energy and the earth element. Now, when the chef is on, bring it on. The chef creator energy is fantastic for creating community. Just fantastic. There's people that have a lot of earth and chef creator energy. They just seem to naturally give rise to community. They write something and it draws people in. They post something. They create this piece, a spoken word piece or an art piece, and it just draws people to them. They are amazing at creating harmony. And by harmony, what I mean is like bringing different pieces together and kind of harmonizing them. So, for example, if you have somebody who has a lot of chef creator energy in a room, there's a group of people, they'll often be the one that helps to sort of meld things or energies or introduce this person to this person. The improviser is like in their sort of fiery zone, connecting, and the chef is bringing things together. When the chef creator type and energy is on, there's also healthy boundaries. In the creative life, this looks like, literally how it looks is that there's boundaries with your creative life. I want to create. I'm reserving this time and space for me to play and create. That's a boundary with the creative life. But I also mean in a broader sense, when the chef creator energy is healthy, when the earth energy is healthy, there are healthier boundaries that follow suit. I hope you can feel me, particularly in relationship to like the kind of give and take with people in a needs and nourishment dynamics. The chef creator type makes things delicious, and nourishes. Isn't that delightful to think about? Like when you create something that that the creation itself is delicious. And it's actually healthy chef creator type helps you to see everything that you create as delicious, by the way. Did you catch that? The chef creator type helps you to see that what you're creating is delicious because it's your creation. We're never going to be done creating. If we get stuck on some kind of perfection around creation, we never stop. That's an imbalance in the priestess type, by the way. If we create and release and create and release and create and release, this is one of the hardest things to do because of fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of rejection, etc. But create and release, create and release. The earth and the chef creator type, when it's healthy, it shows us how to do this. Like create and release, just like a garden will grow up a fruit or a vegetable and it'll release it. And if you don't get it when it's time to release it, it either goes to seed or it falls to the earth and ferments on the earth. No matter what, nothing is lost because everything's turning into something else. But create and release and create and release and enjoy and create and release and take a bite out of the apple and create and release like this. This is the magic of the chef creator type. Okay, such a pleasure to be with you. We're going to talk now about what the chef needs to thrive, the chef creator energy. The creation needs to be nourishing to you as you're creating it. And if it's not feeling nourishing, stop and do what you need to do so it does feel nourishing. Community needs to be involved somehow. When you're making creating your creation, the community, it may or may not be in the face of community, but then after you create it, offer it up in service to community. Service is needed. Integrity, and we talked about that last week. Nourishment, sweetness, ideation, ideas, turning ideas into things. And I wrote microorganisms because the chef creator energy does have to do with digestion and integration. I mean this literally, like as in probiotics, but I also mean it in the form of we need other life. Like we've become so germophobic in our current state, which I think is really unfortunate because 90% of the cells in and on our body aren't even self cells, they're microorganisms. We would not be alive without microorganisms. Only 2% of microorganisms are actually harmful. The rest are actually helping us to absorb vitamins and to digest our food and to actually relate to our environment. There's a very sophisticated process that happens with DNA in our gut that allows us to understand our environment on a very primal level. So if you want to beef up your chef creator energy, take care of your gut, take care of your microorganisms, and appreciate microorganisms. Okay, so in closing, we're going to talk about a few oils. And just as I go into talking about oils, I want to mention to you that Aroma Point Mastery, which is a beautiful, really like a soul journey with essential oils, with me, with others around the globe, where you not only get to develop in your journey with essential oils, but you get to develop in how that might relate to your business or your entrepreneurial offerings, if that's what you want. And so, if you feel compelled or you really enjoy the way that I speak about the oils, which I'm about to do, then be sure to check out the link, which I'm going to add to the show notes. And if you're thinking about it right now, if you're on live, you can go to Master Healer. Actually, just go to my website, tiffanycarroll.com, and click on my online school, and it'll take you there. So I pulled out a blend. This is actually, I made this blend and it's called Nourishment. It's on monara.org. And I love it because it has some of the primary earth chef type supportive oils, which are coriander seed, geranium rose, and vetiver. There's another little secret ingredient in there that you can see if you end up getting it. It's just extraordinary. I mean, it's like almost like I can feel my body absorbing nutrients out of things as I smell it. And so we're going to talk about those oils briefly. Coriander seed, geranium, and vetiver. Vetiver, which comes from the roots of the vetiver grass, which grows 13, 14 feet directly down into the earth. This is one of my favorite lines about vetiver and this is true, that in Southeast Asia, in countries where they have monsoon seasons, they plant vetiver grass on the hillside so that when the monsoon rains come, you don't have big landslides because the deep roots hold the earth in place. So vetiver prevents soil erosion, and it also prevents soul erosion. Vetiver helps us to tap into the depths of our being and center ourselves deeply, not just center, but root. And from our roots, we're both getting nourishment, but we're also releasing that which isn't needed in energetic form into compost. I love vetiver on the bottom of the feet, kidney 1. You can, of course, do an inhalation. When I move, when I'm actually physically moving, like if I'm moving from one house to another or I'm journeying from one country to another, I like to put vetiver right over my heart, CV17, to root the energy of my heart and to calm the heart. Vetiver I call the restorative stabilizer, by the way. Coriander seed, the queen of abundance, the ruler of reciprocity. Coriander seed goes, and it's seed, by the way, not the leaf. It's very different. It goes vibrationally and within the psyche, it goes to the core of lack stories, lack beliefs, where we have pulled away from parts of our own physicality, and it's created a relative lack and then a relative excess somewhere else. Coriander seed sends this deep message to the body and the psyche that there is enough, that you are enough, that this is substantial, that you are substantial. And as we start to attune to that energy of abundance, things start to flow, resources start to move in the psyche or in the body. My favorite place for coriander seed is right in the belly button. You just take a drop and hold it lightly over your belly button and breathe. And for me, because coriander seed is one of my all-time favorites, I'll do this anytime I'm sort of flailing about in lack, which, by the way, in the creative sphere, this could be like, I'm not enough, it's not going to be enough, it's not going to pay enough, la, la, la. Pop it on there, close your eyes, and you can say, I am substantial. I am substantial. And just feel yourself filling yourself out. It's a powerful practice. And if you find that you're getting paralyzed in your creations because of this lack, some variety of lack, do this and do it. Take it on for a week to 2 days, a week to 2 weeks as a practice to see what happens, not just a one off. The last oil, geranium rose, I call it the sweet mother. Geranium is one of the more powerful oils for, I mean, I think the easiest way to say it is healing our mother wounds. And we have, I've never met anybody that doesn't have some personal mother wounding stuff. But we also have, we could say, collective mother wounds connected to the mother archetype, just as we do with the father archetype. So, geranium rose is a beautiful transformative guide, transformative agent in relationship to all things connected to the mother wound. That would be, if we talked about all things connected to the mother wound, that would be a whole other probably video series. But you can think in your own experience what your journey's been like with that. It's not about making your mother bad, not at all. But it's about recognizing, if there was neglect, or if love was conditional, um, or you weren't, it didn't feel like you were allowed to be yourself with your mother. There's a number of things that could have gone on. It impacts how we are able to both receive and transmit the energy of nourishment. Think about geranium rose. My favorite thing to do is what I call the geranium rose foot arch treatment. You can learn about that in Aroma Point Mastery, by the way. I go into it in great detail, but in a very short nutshell, you put 1 to 2 drops on the inside arch of each foot, occlude, hold your feet together, and do that practice for a minimum of a month. Not only will it shift that energy around how you sort of guard yourself or overcompensate in relationship to the mother wound, but it will also balance your blood sugar and your relationship to sweets, which is a nice thing for a lot of people. I know it was for me. Okay, those were our oils. That was a lot of, oh my gosh, this turned out to be almost a 30-minute video. Wow. Fabulous. Now, don't forget to come next week, because next week is the final week, the recap week. Invite people if you want to. I'm going to do a quick overview of each one, and it will probably end up to be about a 20 or 30-minute video. Try to come live if you can. Share this one if you'd like, and I look forward to seeing you there. From my heart to yours, it's been a true pleasure.